Now, beyond that, that's the rest of the world. What does this mean for people that actually claim to be Christian? Well, we addressed in Matthew 7, verses 21 through 23 that, yes, many people are going to wear the name of Christ, and many of those people even are not going to be able to walk the narrow road to salvation. And part of what that population group looks like now, and I'm going to put this forward to you and then go along to prove it as we continue the study, is the unchurched Christian. The unchurched Christian. Now, the unchurched Christian is the Christian, or at least they claim to be Christian, and they say that you don't need to be a part of any organized religion. In fact, they downplay that, almost promoting not to become a part of an organized church of any kind. This is a quote that I read from a young man, I assume he was a young man, on Facebook named Noah Henshaw. He had over 11,000 likes at the time that I read this and put it down in these notes. He was talking about a recent movement of, you've maybe heard of Kanye West, a famous celebrity who has come out as Christian now. He had this to say, and it pertains to the unchurched Christian. I believe with all my heart that we're on the verge of a modern day great awakening. That move of revival isn't going to come from a suit and tie church pew religion. It is going to come from influencers like Kanye displaying the radical grace of Christ. It is going to come from churches that abandon religion for true relationship. It is going to come from believers that lay down their picket signs and display the same love that Christ showed during his earthly ministry. Now, I'm not denying some of the things that he said are true and demonstrating the same love that Christ showed and all that. But the idea that unchurched religion is the way to heaven, that poses some problems, as we're going to notice going forward. And so this is one of the purposes of this study, is to address this type of thinking and this movement. The first place I might start would be Ephesians chapter 3. And while I'm not going to read these verses with you, I might read these in a personal study with people, but I'm just going to reference them. And again, they're in the notes so you can see what I'm talking about in the notes. When you read Ephesians 3 verses 1 through 12, you find that the local church is very important to the life of a Christian and to the salvation of a Christian. In fact, in verses 9 through 10 of Ephesians chapter 3, Paul goes on to say that God planned to build his church before he even planned to build the world, like create the world. That's what he implies there in verses 9 and 10. He more than implies it, in fact. The second thing he says there in Ephesians 3, and you can find this in verse 6, is that it's through obeying the gospel or getting saved that someone becomes a part of Christ's church. The third thing you learn is in verse 6 as well, that becoming part of Christ's church, or his body as it's called, means having a special relationship with him and everyone else in that body. Not just him, but everyone else in that body. He's talking to the local church in Ephesus, people that have a relationship with Christ, but people who also have an obligation and a relationship to each other within that local congregation.